I've been using Retinal every day, but my skin is really dry, flaky, feels tight. Should I keep using it? In this video, we're going to tackle this question. If you're new here, I'm Dr. Dray. I'm a board-certified dermatologist. In today's video, we're going to revisit Retinal or retinaldehyde, as well as address some of the lifestyle factors that can creep in and sabotage your progress on retinaldehyde, subsequently exacerbate dryness and irritation. The goal here is to help you get results without unnecessary dryness and irritation. Let's start with a quick refresher. What is retinal or retinaldehyde? It's part of the vitamin A family. It's a cosmetic ingredient that can improve the signs of skin aging. In contrast to tretinoin or other prescription topical forms of vitamin A, we'll say, it's not intended to treat skin diseases like acne, for example. It can be effective for collagen production, but because it's a cosmetic, it can't make that claim, despite there being evidence to support it. What's the difference between retinol, OL, and retinal, AL? They're both forms of topical vitamin A that, when used consistently, can improve the visible signs of skin aging. They differ a little bit in that retinol requires your skin to perform 2 steps on it in order for it to be active in your skin, whereas retinal or retinaldehyde only requires 1. Some people conclude that that means that retinal is stronger or more robust in comparison to retinol, but truthfully, we don't have studies comparing the two side by side as far as how quickly they work or how effective either of them are. And the studies that we do have suggest that either ingredient can improve the visible signs of skin aging and can improve collagen production. Retinal is a fantastic cosmetic ingredient. It can improve the appearance of fine lines, uneven texture, pigmentation. Like all active forms of topical vitamin A, it can be drying and irritating, especially in the first few months when you begin using it. So if you're new to using retinal, you might really be coming up against some dryness, some peeling, and irritation, and it may be tempting you to just completely bail on this ingredient. This increases something called transepidermal water loss, meaning water exiting your skin. Your skin is losing moisture faster than it can replace it. Retinal increases the maturation rate of the epidermis, which makes it great for skin renewal. However, this can temporarily weaken skin barrier function, leading to, well, dryness, peeling, and flaking, as well as a stinging sensation when things come in contact with your skin, aka a heightened sensitivity. But here's the part that people often overlook. Lifestyle factors can actually contribute to this dryness, irritation, and sensitivity, and addressing some of these lifestyle factors might be key to getting you over this hump of dryness and irritation. Your skincare routine can't outwork bad daily habits. Standing up close to heaters, stoves, or your fireplace while cozy really can do a number on your skin and dry it out. Long hot showers are another major culprit. Hot water increases transepidermal water loss. Ultimately, that makes that retinaldehyde dryness even worse. So make sure you're keeping your showers short and relatively lukewarm temperature. Alcoholic beverage consumption is another thing that could be playing a role in excessively dry, sensitive, raw, red, flaky skin. It's dehydrating and it exacerbates flushing and redness, especially if you're using topical retinaldehyde. Overwashing is another little sneaky barrier disrupting force. Obviously, it's important to cleanse your skin, but you might consider reducing the frequency of cleansing from twice a day down to once a day if you're experiencing dryness, flaking, sensitivity, and irritation with your retinaldehyde. While drinking water is very important for our overall health, as a reminder, drinking more water is not going to solve this issue. You still need topical support. So let's get into some dry skin solutions. If you want your retinaldehyde to work in your favor, barrier support has to be a priority. Starting with your cleanser. You might choose a mild cream cleanser. They tend to be a lot gentler on the skin. Although if you wear a lot of makeup, admittedly, they're not the most efficient at removing that. So you might want to come in with an oil cleanser first. It sounds counterintuitive. What do you mean we're going to stack 2 different cleansers? I thought you just said back down on the frequency. Now you're saying add in 2 cleansers? I know it sounds bizarre, but trust me, smearing an oil cleanser all over your face, which has an emulsifier in it that'll allow that oil to rinse off, taking with it some of the cosmetic residue, and then following with a very mild cream cleanser. It's a great way to efficiently remove makeup and cosmetic residue from the skin surface with minimal barrier disruption. Importantly, make sure you are rinsing the cleanser off. I cannot emphasize this enough. I think people get caught up in the details of foaming versus non-foaming versus what type of cleanser should I use, what brand, Honestly, a lot of times people are not adequately rinsing all of the cleanser residue off of their face. You'd be surprised. For example, cleanser residue collects on the sides of the nose, up around the brow area. You don't notice it, especially if you're rinsing your face off in a hurry at the sink. I actually have started sticking my head in the shower, taking the shower nozzle down. I have a detachable shower nozzle head. Pretty inexpensive. You can even install them in an apartment shower, and I just take that and I rinse my face in the shower with that. Gets all the cleanser residue off. Game changer. But of course, moisturizing can really help you out here. Your skin might benefit from barrier supporting ingredients like ceramides, which are lipids naturally found in skin's outermost layer, and applying them in a moisturizer can help your skin begin to make more ceramides, helping to repair the barrier, ultimately helping cutting down on dryness, flaking, and irritation. Using a slightly richer moisturizer at night or an occlusive ointment as the final step in your skincare routine can really be a game changer as well, provided you tolerate doing so. But the retinaldehyde product you are using can also help you out as well. Many retinaldehydes are formulated in a very moisturizing base. The one I frequently recommend is the Aven Retrin AL 0.1 Intensive Cream. I've been recommending that for years because Aven puts a lot of R&D into their formulations. They're a pretty big company and they have a good track record of retinaldehyde formulation, so I do recommend them. And that particular product I find to be pretty moisturizing in and of itself. Not only is it an effective formulation, but it's in a very moisturizing base. Prequel's Retinal Renew Retinaldehyde Gel. This is a very nice lightweight gel. It spreads easily on the skin and absorbs well. Retinaldehyde aside, the overall formulation is an excellent moisturizer, perhaps from the ectoin, a reduction in transepidermal water loss. It's just a really nice, hydrating, yet lightweight and comfortable formula. Having a humidifier in your bedroom can also help tremendously when it comes to dry skin in general. Our skin loses more water as we sleep, so running that humidifier in the bedroom at night can really help cut down on dryness and irritation. And a really important reminder here, seeing flakes and flaky skin does not mean you need to reach for all of the exfoliants. Flaky skin is skin that is exfoliating. The best way to deal with the flakes is actually to get yourself a little facial oil. I don't care what oil it is. Honestly, mineral oil works really well for this. Baby oil, although that tends to be scented, but if you go to the laxative section, I know it sounds weird, they sell regular plain mineral oil there, which is a laxative, but you can take a little drop of it and rub it on the flakes. It will help them to come off without disrupting the skin barrier. We actually recommend parents to do this very same thing when their child has a flaky scalp of cradle cap to exfoliate away those flakes. This can be very helpful as well as an approach to getting rid of the flakes from peeling with a topical form of vitamin A. Now I want to talk about how to actually apply your retinaldehyde to make sure you're getting the most out of it and cutting down on dryness, irritation, and flakes. First of all is the frequency. Many people in the beginning do well to start out by applying retinaldehyde just a few nights a week, bumping up to 4 nights a week for a few weeks, then gradually increasing, ideally to every single night. Consistency matters the most in order to get the results that you're looking for from a topical retinaldehyde. That's why I'm not a big fan of starting and stopping it. I don't actually recommend completely stopping it because then you're kind of going to be starting from scratch again at some point in the future if you decide to restart it again. I say persevere with the hope and the light at the end of the tunnel that with consistent use of a topical retinaldehyde, it actually can improve barrier integrity. Remember that. Also, I suggest avoiding alternating a retinal one night with a retinol a second night and or a prescription retinoid on other nights of the week. This leads to unpredictable results and in some cases could potentially aggravate the dryness, irritation, and peeling that you are already experiencing. The next tip though is to consider applying the retinaldehyde with the sandwich technique. First, apply a thin layer of a moisturizer or a lightweight hydrating serum, then apply the retinaldehyde, and then apply a layer of moisturizer. This moisture sandwich technique can really help to cut down on the dryness and irritation, and it doesn't sabotage the results that you will get from the retinaldehyde. Certain areas of the face are going to be a lot more vulnerable to dryness and irritation from topical forms of vitamin A, such as delicate eyelid skin, the lips. Also, has anyone ever gotten excessively dry and irritated right here where your earlobe joins the side of your head? Ingredients can collect right here in this little teeny tiny space, and the next thing you know, you have dry, cracked earlobes, itchy, flaky ears. That's another location that tends to be sensitive to ingredients. Also, the delicate skin of the neck. I also suggest considering applying a thin layer of petroleum jelly to these areas before applying your retinaldehyde. Petroleum jelly acts as a barrier. It will not allow the retinaldehyde to access these areas of skin, effectively protects them from it, cutting down on the likelihood that you develop excessively dry eyelids from retinaldehyde or that annoying flaky earlobe. Another technique that I want to remind you guys of, which I have a whole dedicated video on, that can be really helpful for people who have very sensitive skin skin, maybe you have rosacea and you're trying to introduce a topical form of vitamin A and cut down on the likelihood of significant irritation, you might try the short contact therapy approach, in which you apply the ingredient to the skin, leave it on for 30 minutes, and then rinse it off. After you rinse it off, just make sure to put a moisturizer on. Be mindful of how much you're using. You do not need a thick layer. More is not more, it just increases the likelihood of irritation. Just enough for a thin film. Historically, that is described as a pea size or a pearl size, but then people online then start to nitpick exactly the diameter of the pea, and it becomes a mind-numbingly painful conversation. So use your best judgment to get the amount needed to just create a very thin film. Last but not least is this myth of the wait time. You don't actually need to wait any amount of time before applying your retinaldehyde following application of other products. The exception is that if you have very sensitive skin and you want to even further try and cut down on the risk of irritation, it's advised to wait a full 30 minutes after cleansing and moisturizing your face before applying the topical retinaldehyde. That actually may help in people who have very sensitive skin, but it is not a must-do for everyone. And then this is a really important thing I want to touch on. Sunscreen still matters. UV exposure happens year-round, even on cloudy days, and it actually weakens skin barrier function because UV rays damage the lipids in skin's outermost layer, making it more vulnerable to water loss, dryness, and irritation. Using a broad-spectrum SPF 30 or higher sunscreen daily helps to protect your skin from the damaging effects of ultraviolet radiation, which is really important. Presumably, you're using a retinaldehyde to achieve certain benefits, but if you're not protecting your skin from the sun, you're not going to get those results, period, point blank. Also, sunscreen is a moisturizer. It's in a moisturizing base, so not only are you protecting the skin from ultraviolet radiation, you're protecting the barrier from becoming weakened by ultraviolet radiation, but you're actively moisturizing it throughout the day as well. And if you're outdoors for prolonged periods of time, make sure you reapply frequently, ideally at least every 2 hours while you are outside, because sunscreen doesn't last forever. It gets rubbed off, sweats off, etc. Okay, so some final takeaways from this video with regards to beginning a topical retinaldehyde. Might require some adjustments in your skincare routine, but that doesn't mean you need to abandon this effective ingredient. Like I said, long-term use of a topical retinaldehyde can actually improve skin barrier function, ultimately helping to keep your skin moisturized for the long run. So don't let the adjustment period get the better of you. If you stick with it, it can pay off. And second, daily lifestyle habits can play a big role in the dryness that you might be experiencing with a topical retinaldehyde. And third, protecting the skin barrier ultimately can make a huge difference in reducing the chances that you develop excessive dryness, irritation, but also can help address existing excessive dryness and irritation and get you over that hump. All right, guys, I really hope you found this video helpful. Now, on the end slide, I'm going to put one of my more recent videos all about either topical retinol, OL, or retinaldehyde. And as a reminder, I have a whole playlist dedicated to topical vitamin A. Please check there because I have a lot of videos talking about tazarotene, trifarotene, tretinoin, adapalene, all of the prescription retinoids, cosmetic ones, certain brands, etc., etc. Check that playlist. Check that playlist. I've been adding to it for going on 9 years now. So there's a lot in there. But if you found this one helpful, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.